Carson, what's your level of trust in your wide receiver group at this point?
It's high. Yeah, it's very high. I mean,
Woo, that was a pointed question. Carson, do you trust your wide receivers? Great line of questioning. That's the way you ask a question at a press conference, guys. Right there, through the damn heart of the subject. All right, y'all. How y'all doing? What's going on, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How's everybody doing in the division? Hey, Dallas, we know y'all lurking. It's all good. Hey, when an organization goes out there and lays an egg against your team like that, I mean, hey, talk your shit. It's deserved. But just know the season's long. It's a long season. It ain't done. All right, guys. So my name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel, and this is the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. If you can't tell, today's topic is going to be about what the hell is going on with this front office. I'm going to break down the front office. I'm going to break down this coaching staff. And I think it's time we have a little conversation about what the hell has happened over these past 2 years, because it ain't pretty. It's not pretty at all. All right, let's get to the topic, guys.
Him into the backfield. Flare him out. Pass is caught over the middle.
All right, Joe, let's talk about this front office, man. There's been a lot of questions circulating about the differences between 2017 compared to what's been going on these past 2 seasons. And I'm going to start off by saying this. I think injuries have a lot to do with this, guys. Number one, when you go on a Super Bowl run, of course, you're going to be a little beat up, especially when you're already beat up during the process of the Super Bowl run. Okay. I think that last season we had a lot of key players that missed early in the season. Like, I think it really set us back. Carson Wentz wasn't himself. Like, he was coming back from an ACL injury, ended up suffering that back injury. There was a lot going on with injuries. And by the way, I still think injuries are decimating us right now. I think the reason we are 3-4 has a large part of that is the fact that we are very injured. And I want you guys to think about this. If I were to slide you over this roster that we ran out against Dallas last night during training camp and said this was the Eagles depth chart, this is the Eagles 53-man roster, would our expectations have been the same with all these injuries mounting? Would it have been the same with Fletcher Cox beside Akeem Spence with Hassan Ridgeway? Would it have been the same with, what we have going on at the linebacker play? Would it have been the same with all these guys missing in the defensive secondary? Just think, we just got Jalen Mills back. If it had just been Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, and then, you know what I'm saying, like Orlando Scandrick, like, would our expectations have been the same, guys? I'm here to tell you, I don't think it would have. I mean, go to the offensive side of the ball. I told you Deshaun Jackson's not here. There's no deep stretch threat on this football team. I don't think we would have been as confident. I don't. Like, yeah, we were rated correctly as having one of the deepest teams in the NFL, but depth should only have to carry you for a game or two. When you're asking multiple positions to step up on depth and to do it for basically the entire season, then to me, that's not depth. That's your fucking roster. There's a difference. There's a big difference between those two concepts. But that leads us into a much more interesting conversation, which is no matter how you shape this, whether it's an issue of talent, whether it's an issue of injuries, like something isn't right and someone fucked up somewhere. Like someone didn't do their job somewhere for this to happen. And I'm going to tell you, I think a lot of y'all kind of threw it out there. Was it Prince Nio? He kind of threw it out there. Philly Mike kind of threw it out there. I mean, there's a lot of y'all been throwing it out there, guys. It's hard. I should have written you guys' names down. I apologize. A lot of y'all been throwing this out there, which is how in the hell do you come into this season without having a vertical threat, like not having a backup to your vertical threat? Like, that's some crazy ass, rookie mistake type shit. And I agree. And in my opinion, that really comes down to the differences between what your coaching staff is seeing and these internal rivalries that go on within the front office. Everyone likes to think of like the front office being this cohesive unit. It's not. I'm going to get into that today. I really want to talk about a little bit about the front office here, guys. I want to break down the Eagles front office. All right.
Every single person who was on that roster, we chose. And
I think that most fans, when they think about the Eagles front office, are thinking about Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. Truth be told, even when I think about the Eagles front office, I see it a little differently. I mean, I don't really think about Jeffrey Lurie because he's the owner, but I do think about Dan Smolinski. I do think about Howie Roseman, my bad, guys. And I also really think about Andy Weidel, okay? Because the front office is actually divided up into three distinct sections, believe it or not. So the first section, which is the Jeffrey Lurie and then Don Smolinski section of it, is the executive administration and then their support team. Okay. The second side of that is the football operations, which is like Howie Roseman and James Gilman and all the quantitative people. Okay, quantitative analysis. And then the third section is your scouting section. That's your X's and O's guys. Kind of in a way, the way I like to think of them is it's almost like the exact opposite of the analyst. Like you got your guys that use their eyes and like they get that on the field and they're paying attention. Like those guys versus like your analysis guys. Like okay, the percentages guys, the statistics guys, those guys. All right. So there are three distinct areas of the front office. Okay. It's not always in harmony, guys. I mean, these people compete against each other. And what you have to understand is when you talk about a guy like Don Smolinski, Don's been here since like 1998, man. He's been here for like 20 some fucking years. He's been here forever, guys. The dude started off as a chief financial officer back in 98, okay? He's a money guy. His main job right now really comes down to sales, marketing, communications, and operations. In terms of player personnel, how does that factor in? He's the guy that makes sure the guy that we pick up is marketable, okay? He's got his voice in that. When you look at a guy like Howie Roseman, all right, what does Howie Roseman do? Well, we know what Howie Roseman does. He's the GM. He's the face of the organization, right? He's the guy calling the other GMs. He's the guy doing the wheeling and dealing, right? So he's the guy that has his analyst, right, his quantitative analyst underneath of him, and then he's got his scouting department to the right of him, and he's the guy who's taking in all this information, trying to, also listening to the coaching staff to bring in these players. When you get to the scouting guys, there's two key people we need to know here, okay? Andy Weidel and Tom Donahue. Tom Donahue, my bad, guys. Tom Donahue's been in the league for a very, very long time. Tom Donahue was a part of getting rid of Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly had another guy, Wojciechowski, some weird ass name, guys. He was the VP of player personnel underneath Chip Kelly, and he was part of that big takeover of taking over Howie Roseman and like how they basically fucked the Eagles roster. That guy was clearly fired once Kelly was gone. So Tom Donahue was brought on to basically help guide this. And then basically Andy Weidel has been like the young guy that's been kind of coming up and is like in that role of building it down. Now underneath of them, there's a whole shit ton of scouts, guys. And that gets broken down into two categories of scouts. So you're going to get your NFL scouting department, which is headed by it's headed by Anthony Patch, the NFL scouting level shit, and then your college scouting. So your college scouting is headed by Brandon Brown. Okay. This is what I'll say. And hopefully these little like images of everybody as we've been talking have been helping you guys understand who the hell this is that we're all speaking of. What I'll say is this. Shit's not always copacetic in there, guys. When we look at, you heard Howie Roseman, the front office constructed this 53-man roster. If we're going to start with leveling blame on them for not having a backup to Deshaun Jackson, it starts at this front office. So what the hell happened between the analytics team and the scouting team? Why is there this disjointed disconnect about not having that plan B? Because I don't know that it's quite fair to throw all of our blame on Doug Peterson, because if Doug Peterson doesn't have the personnel available to run his system, are we getting an accurate reflection of him as a coach? It's hard to say, guys. I can't say that Doug Peterson's completely above blame, but I also got to say the front office has failed him this season to a ridiculous level. All right, guys, just let me know. Did I go a little too egghead on y'all today? Was this just too many moving parts for you guys? Let me know what you think about all this, guys. I'm underneath the impression that what we have here is largely due to injuries and to some minor extent, some bad personnel decisions. I think it was a pretty bad personnel decision not to have a more capable and ready stretch player behind Deshaun Jackson, whether that was a young talent, a veteran, whoever. I'm still curious. Like, look, if the Eagles are out there and they're searching for like one of these huge name guys, like that's fine. But I don't know if Torrey Smith is still available. I don't know if Mike Wallace is still available. Why wouldn't we bring in one of these vets that, I mean, they're not going to be like these huge things, but they'll still give you the respect of stretching the game. You're not going to leave Mike Wallace running free. You're not going to leave Torrey Smith running free. They can still stretch it. To me, it almost appears like the front office whether it was between the analytics guys, whether it was between the scouting guys, I don't know who the hell's responsible. It almost seems like they felt like Nelson Aguilar was the like kind of backup piece there. And it's not, that wasn't fair to ask of Nelson Aguilar because that's not his game. Nelson, I think, is pretty good on those deep crosses and things like that. Like he has a deep element to his game, but I don't know what they saw to make them think that this kid could catch a seam. He really struggles with tracking the ball on like seams, go routes, fades. He doesn't do those routes very well at all. Like I don't get it, guys. It's beyond me. Um, I don't know if this was some kind of a division in that front office between analytics, between the scouting department. Was this an issue between like the administration, the admin department versus operations versus scouting? Like, was this a matter of like, well, Nelson Aguilar has a name? Like, guys, at the end of the day, like Nelson Aguilar brings way more attention to the Eagles than like a Mike Wallace does, or I don't know where to go with this shit, guys. Like, it is a little frustrating, but to me, I do have to walk back a little bit on Doug Peterson just because, like, and I'm going to make a video later, guys, that's coming up this week where I'm going to talk about this coaching staff because I do think some of y'all have a point about Doug Peterson and this coaching staff. I don't know that we've surrounded him with the offensive minds and the coaching that needs to be in place to help him from himself at times. I think Frank Reich was, I think he was able to do that. DeFilippo, he was also here as a quarterbacks coach then. Like, I think those guys were definitely here to kind of help out. Like, minus those, I don't know, guys. I don't know where to take this sometimes. All right, y'all. Y'all let me know your thoughts. You know what time it is, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as painful it is on a Monday morning to do this, guys, hey, I'm still an Eagles fan at the end of the day. So it's time we go a little something like EAGLES. Ooh, boys, let's not have another fucking fall like this again, guys. This shit was ridiculous.